Ready to kick it off, fellas? Alrighty, here we are. So we are the second mock trial Eden election. Plenty of disclaimers, mock and trial. We are unofficial, yet official, as official as we can be in the eyes of the community. So we're gonna run with it. We're gonna assume we have a mandate, even though it is mock and trial, but that doesn't mean we can't do excellent things and deliver incredible results in the month or two we might have between now and the next election. So I'm sharing my screen, and basically we've got a bit of an agenda here. And the first thing I want to talk about, guys, is, and we don't need to settle on any of this right now because we've got a lot to cover, but an overarching mission statement for the team. This is what I've come up with, and that is to develop an Eden on EOS organizational structure that is scalable, iterative, transparent, and collaborative with the entire EOS community. So it's not really focused on any one particular goal. It's more focused on creating a framework, which will then include some goals we can add. But if the framework is solid, then that becomes something that we can then hand off to the next Eden and subsequent Edens, and then maybe even be officially adopted by the first official Eden, whether they want to or not, but at least it's something that can give us something to work from. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's just a suggestion, nothing that we impose on the real Eden election or the next rounds.
Yep.
But yeah, we're just thinking out loud together and coming up with reasonable suggestions.
Yeah, I like that statement.
Okay. Felix, seem okay to you?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do here is just we're trying to set the best example that we believe and would like to see in the future of Eden board members, and yeah, just kind of setting a precedent to the best that we believe we can.
Okay, awesome. Like I say, any of this stuff we can change later, but it gives us something at least to begin building a body around, right? We're gonna build the skeleton and then add the meat bits later on. Okay, so the agenda for today, I'll just run through it and then we'll kick it into the details. Or actually, yeah, no, we might as well just go through them one by one. So the first thing, I'd like to see if we could brainstorm and develop a list of objectives and goals that we'd like to accomplish during our term. We can assume, it could be wrong, but if we have a similar duration between now and the next election, that was between the first and the most recent election, it would be around 2 months. So if we set a set of goals and objectives that we think can be realistically achieved in 2 months, then that would be the way to go. Ideally, and this doesn't all have to happen today, but ideally we're gonna look at each objective and goal and then plot a path from today to completion, which includes some tasks and duties, responsibilities in relation to getting those done. And again, not all of this is certainly achievable today, because a lot of these duties, responsibilities, and tasks are going to require other Eden EOS members, right, to jump in and figure out what they can add to the framework. And I know Josh has some really great ideas on how that framework can look in terms of like a organizational structure, the holacracy, I guess it's pronounced. But at a high level, what kind of goals do you guys do we see? Like, we've got a list here of some goals that have already kind of been predefined based on our mandates from actually progressing through the election. So those are easy. We've got Ami's proposal here, which is we've got some great points. So maybe we just go through these one at a time for now, and we'll cover the mandates from the election, and then we'll go and add additional pieces that we can do. Or that this whole board can try to accomplish with the help of the community in time. Sound good?
Yeah, you want to go over this document quickly?
Yeah, if you want to, do you want me to read it?
Start with this? No, yeah, I can start with this.
Great. Okay.
So yeah, I propose to make an open source project, which will be a mini website that anyone who's a little proficient in coding can install. My idea was that if there are so many people in the world that can install WordPress, then this should be at the same level of complexity. If you can install WordPress, you can install what I'm going to build, hopefully, if I'm successful. And I'm not going to use the same basic tools that WordPress relies on. It relies on something called LAMP, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and LAMP, MySQL, and PHP. Sorry. So you have a database and a server side language and code. And I'm going to use tools that are a little different, but my hope is that once you install this on your website, and you can customize the theme and the look and the text on the front page, then you can invite your friends and family and just give them a link to your website. And this website is, that's the weak link of WebAuthn. WebAuthn is a standard on the web that goes all the way from your hardware module on your phone, which is already there and can manage private keys safely and using your biometrics, either fingerprint or Face ID. And you can authenticate to a website and with public and private key pair that are generated on this hardware wallet that's on your phone. And it can sign transactions. And what the weakness is that it's tied to a specific domain name. So, and that's the weakness, because if the domain name goes down, then nobody can access their EOS account anymore. So I'm going to develop this idea further and propose ways around this, and like multisig and something like that, but without complicating the end users. I want to have something that bridges the complexity of multisig, because it's very powerful, and I'm going to expand a little bit and improve on a suggestion that I saw on the EOS mainnet Telegram chat on May 27th by Erin Haggerty. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's a great starting point, and that's copied and pasted here. And in order for this to work, we need to have the one who sets this up on a website. He needs to be a part of the owner permission for his circle of trust, the people that open accounts on the EOS mainnet using this website. And he needs to have his keys outside of this system. So if something bad happens to his website, either through his neglecting to pay the yearly bill to renew, or something happens on the DNS base layer system that translates website names.com to IP addresses. So this whole subgroup of people doesn't get locked out of EOS and never being able to regain their access to their accounts. So this person that is at the top of this small group must have his keys outside of using this system and using this, being linked to this domain name. That's the high level idea.
Okay, so thank you for the extra detail. That's excellent. I guess in terms of the goal setting piece of this, your goal is quite clear. It's to create this, it's to basically take your proposal and make it so. I guess the question from that then, any consideration of sort of timeline, next steps, and support from the community, support from us? How can we help you achieve that goal? Any of those pieces?
Yeah, I'm gonna write a draft and add some initial estimates of timeline, and I'm gonna break that into different parts. And if people want to help me, that will be super great. And whoever is a developer and wants to help, that's going to be great. I'm going to do a GitHub project, and pull requests are going to be welcome.
Okay, excellent. And I probably should mute when I'm typing. Apologies.
And
So that's great. And so basically, and this is interesting about the GitHub. So part of what we'll get to later is centralizing and consolidating comms and some of the output that we have as a board. One of the projects that did come up was from Douglas, who basically wanted to do a bit of a GitHub repository of sorts. And that comes up later, in fact. So perhaps there's a way to integrate that proposal and have what you're doing to be one of the first sort of, I don't know what you call a sub, I don't know how I don't know what the folder structure is of GitHub, a sub Git.
GitHub, it's a decentralized way of managing code bases. So I can do it on my GitHub, and Eden can copy that, and that's fine.
Okay.
And that the Eden one can be the official one, but I'm going to be active working on mine, at least initially.
Okay.
And whoever wants to make a copy and change that, they can also do that on GitHub, and it doesn't have to be merged to the official one.
Okay. Okay, awesome. That's clear. So you'll do that. When any anticipation of when you would have the framework out so people can then review and consider how they might be able to support?
Yeah, I'm going to do that in the next coming days, and I'm going to publish that before the weekend.
Okay. I will aim to publish framework this week. I just want to, ideally, I'll summarize some kind of key takeaways, like a TLDR, in a sort of, when we present this meeting and the outcome, we'll have a kind of snapshot. So that'll be key. So then people can kind of look to see when and how they can support. So that's awesome. Okay. Any questions from Felix and Josh on this particular objective goal list, or objective or goal?
No, but if you need anything from us, I mean, let us know so we can continue to support.
Thank you. Yeah. You said I should talk to Aaron from Greymass. I would like to, if you can do a little introduction on Telegram, or if there's somebody else you think I should talk to in the initial phases. Daniel Keys, maybe, I don't know.
Great point. I think you'd be wise to speak with probably Aaron Haggerty, who's in Telegram, and he hangs out in EOS Gov sometimes, so he's pingable. So I'm sure we can get a hold of him. Probably Aaron Cox from Greymass, and then Daniel Keys did mention today in the Telegram chat that they had some experience or some comments about the WebAuthn. So those are probably 3 points of contact that are worth reaching out to as you develop your framework.
Maybe we could create a focus group for this project, and then we can ask people if it's all right if we just add them to that group.
Yeah, we should.
So then everyone kind of has visibility of what the conversation going on and where they might be able to add some value or bring somebody in to assist.
Yeah, and if there are any web or EOS.js developers or smart contract developers that want to also be on that Telegram group, then that's great.
Okay, excellent. And here's set up Telegram group, set up GD group to discuss. Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. Setting up this Telegram group, is that something that you'll do, Ami, or do you want myself or Josh to help set that up for you?
I can do that.
You'll do it. Okay.
I'm going to invite you and all of you and the first
Excellent.
few people that are here.
Okay, right on. Next on the list, Felix's content creators proposal. We've had a recent kind of groundswell of community support. A special Telegram group got made to help support Felix with some additional funds to help achieve this goal, which I think is awesome. Kudos to Earthman, Mark Shear, for stepping up. He donated out of his own pocket, I think, to this initiative. So, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Earthman and Roland, he also matched the 110 EOS. So it's nice to see that support.
That's wicked to see. So hopefully those watching this, if you want to further support what we're about to discuss with Felix's plan, then, you know, I'm sure we're open to that. So yeah, Felix, what are you thinking in terms of what should we jot down here so the community has visibility of sort of your next steps and, you know, what would you like to, how you're going to kick this off with some steps, and then we can sort of make everyone aware.
Right, yeah. So right now I'm working on a video. I'm hoping to have that out by today. Should be out by today, if not tomorrow for sure. That's going to be a video towards the Creator Now community to get anyone who's interested on getting involved with a sponsorship from Eden on EOS. And so once I have that released out to the community, I'm hoping to set up a Zoom call by the end of the week with all of those who are interested, and I'll help. The Zoom call will be kind of answering any questions that they may have, and then depending, I want to see kind of, I guess, how much feedback I get, who's all interested. My thinking was I was right now probably gonna use like 10 EOS each creator for this first video challenge. So my proposal for this first series of videos for these content creators who are interested in getting involved will be you got to pay for a meal in cryptocurrency. So that's going to require you to convince somebody to pay for your meal, and in return you'll send them the equivalent in EOS. And so you'll have to get them set up on an EOS account. And so during that Zoom call, or I might have multiple Zoom calls depending on how it all plays out, but eventually the content creators who I do plan on moving forward with, I will get them set up on an EOS account, and then that same process will be the process that they use when they're onboarding whoever ends up paying for their meal. And so we do weekly videos here at Creator Now. So I would expect, I'm hoping to get this out, like I said, the video and proposal to them for today and tomorrow, so that we can get some videos from these content creators out with this challenge, hopefully by next week. Yeah, at the very least 2 weeks from now. But yeah, I'm hoping by the end of, we have a cutoff date on Saturdays to get our weekly video submission in. So by July 31st, I'm hoping to have at least a couple videos from content creators who are going to be the first series of sponsorships from Eden on EOS.
That sounds fantastic, man. You've got a plan. That great point on, yeah, you're going to have to basically onboard the creators first as like a trial run, right? To show them how. Are you going to record that too, maybe? That might make for some good, just how to set it up. And if you can do like screen captures of where to click and all that jazz, that might be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna try to capture everything. I do that already. Like I've been just capturing everything now. It's just really, I got to get past the part of just being fine with, fine with what I capture. Got to make that into content, be less picky of making it perfect. But that's me as a creator experience that I'm going through. But with these guys, yeah, I want to capture that, the whole process. I think I would like to get a video out of, to those who end up getting the EOS. Like if you're wanting to, cash that out, here's a way to set up through Coinbase, and then, just really simple, how do I send and use the mobile app. Right now, my experience is using the Anchor wallet. I do want to get in touch with Aaron about possibly, like, I know he's got a lot on his plate, but I think one barrier that kind of was like, that makes the challenge a little bit more difficult is that, like, you're gonna have to ask the other person to pay for the $2 account creation. So I think Wombat has where you can start a free account, but then later if you want to, I'm not sure if you're wanting to actually transfer EOS, that you have to pay like $5 to get the account. I have to look more into that, but yeah, I would like to try to get, if we can figure out something to get that barrier of entry removed as far as free account creation, whether that be like a separate like referral code or discount code that you put in, and then that would take off the EOS account fee, and then we maybe have some type of like backdoor funding towards like if, you know, Gray Mass and Anchor to cover whatever fees are on their end for the account creation.
The
But
pure
having
EOS
so
account
much set
fee,
up for each creator.
Felix, the pure EOS account fee is just the RAM, because you have EOS Power Up, which is free donation-based way of getting resources to submit transactions and actions on the net. And then the only thing you have to pay for is the 3 kilobytes of RAM. And currently that is about 0.1 EOS, which is less than 40 cents.
Okay.
So, but that requires you to go around the convenience of using the, you know, the web store wallets.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah.
you're going to want to use the web store to keep it simple.
Yeah, I wanted to do something pretty simple for, I mean, this is, I feel like I'm kind of like Anchor. It's pretty easy for me to use, but like people that don't even know about cryptocurrencies, they need something even easier.
Right.
And so like if I even mention RAM, that will completely throw them off.
No,
Most people don't even know what RAM is.
What I'm thinking, I haven't checked that, is that maybe you can use Anchor and maybe something like blocks.io and create an account for them, and then they can use an app that's free if they already have an account. So they install the app, and they, instead of creating an account using that in-store payment, they can import an account that you create for them. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean that was, so one of the issues that I had ran into in my video challenge was what the person had an Android phone, so I didn't know that that was still being in the works for Anchor. So I actually created the account on my phone, and then you can transfer the private keys through like a QR code, but then you have to delete the app, and I don't think that's best practice, because then you're having to trust the person that's setting up the account to delete it.
I think after that you can replace that with a new private key, so it's temporary just for you to transfer. It's cumbersome. Yeah.
That's the main thing, is because my kind of goal is, like I said, I'm kind of looking at this as a more interactive faucet where we're just getting EOS in the hands of new users and really with the idea of like, they're just general people that don't even know anything about cryptocurrency, might have heard it on the news, but have never actually dealt with any Bitcoin wallet or any wallets in general. So just to keep it as simple and basic as possible is the goal.
Yeah, I think you're wise, Amy. I mean, you make some good points, but they're going to be out of the scope of because you're using brand new content creators, part of the Creator Now network, who aren't crypto familiar necessarily, to then set these up for other people who are crypto familiar. You want the easiest possible way to set up a wallet.
Right.
So maybe like two ways you could go about it. If you got your Creator Now folks who are going to go and walk up to somebody, pay for their meal, if you're funding them with some EOS, give them a little extra EOS to say, give the person you're going to create a wallet to, like who you're at, like give them $2. So the content creator guy from Creator Now walks up, says, hey, can you pay for my meal in EOS? You need to set up an account though, so I can pay you. Also, here's $2 in cash that I'm going to give you to cover the account creation you're about to pay. That might be one way. The other thing is just use the focus. As much as we want to support Gray Mass and Anchor, maybe Wombat is a simpler approach since it's free. Because my understanding is that you can do whatever you want with the EOS on a Wombat wallet. You have to pay to export your private key. So it's somewhat centralized in that respect until you pay. But I could be wrong, but that was what I thought. So it might be worth digging.
Yeah. So, and then if, any wallet providers are watching this, feel free to reach out, and I'd be interested in hearing. But yeah, that's kind of the basics of what I'm looking for, something very simple to set up a free account ideally. But yeah, that was the approach I went at after, was like, hey, so it's a $2 fee that you'll have to pay on your end. But if you do that, I'll add that to the total amount that you're paying for my meal anyway. So, I mean, that might not be a huge thing. It's just an extra little thing that would just make it a little bit easier. But because yeah, it's going to be interesting to see these content creators who do take the challenge, how well they do. I just know from my own experience, it took me, I spent I got lucky. It took 3 trips, 3 like fill ups for me to get from Colorado to Texas. The first one was the longest one. It took me probably 2-3 hours to find one person that was willing to help me out. And then after that, I got lucky. I had my buddy's friend. He wanted to help out. And then the third stop, our first try, he was all about it. And he had a Coinbase account, which is cool because some people who are kind of hesitant with even setting up an account, you can just straight send to the Coinbase account, and they get the cash right then and there too. So just another angle. It'll be interesting to see what type of content comes out from these creators. I think it'll help just not only spread the word on EOS, but kind of just give all, wallet providers a better idea of like, hey, this is what we kind of should focus on building our wallet towards to help mainstream adoption.
Got two suggestions. So it could be nice to like challenge those creators to like figure out what they think is the easiest inroad, and also like we really want their feedback, to give to the different providers in the space. Another one would be focusing the messaging on the value of having an EOS account, and maybe if it's more about the value of having the EOS account, and less, it kind of distracts from like, oh, I need to pay for it, because it's like I'm willing to pay for a domain name, and to pay like $2 for a domain name is that's relatively cheap domain name. And so if compared to other blockchains, to be able to create a user account, and then that user account lets you do different things, it is actually pretty cool. And so somehow focusing on that messaging and that angle may distract from the idea that you even have to pay anything, or would jump through whatever kinds of hoops or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so my idea too, I mean, this will probably be something we talk about in later weeks of this board meeting that we're doing. But after the first series, I was thinking, we can step it up depending on the performance of how the creators do with this like first series of video challenges. Then we can up the stakes where it's not just paying for a meal. Now it's, you gotta travel so many miles, or you got to do something it's going to require to get a little bit more than just like the way I'm thinking. Like 10 EOS right now is around a little over $30. So I think that's a fair amount for content creators. They can get a meal paid for from $10 to $15, and then they get the other half for the sponsorship, of doing the video itself. But like I said, depending on the what I think would be interesting too is if we can include this our Eden election process to vote on like which creators do you want to see move on to like a more extreme challenge that has more funding that gets awarded for the sponsorship.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Cool, man. Well, I don't have any questions. You've got a clear set of goals here and some timelines on deliverables, and we'll do these meetings semi-frequently, frequency to be determined, but we'll certainly kind of check back in, and I'll keep a record of all these goals, and I'll highlight them better in the notes. I'm just doing a verbal blah here, but I'll kind of organize this nicer so things are more cleanly looked at when we want to review later where we're at and if we've achieved sort of some of these goals as we go. Okay, Eden members proxy. How to do it is we got a long way to go. This is a fairly big task because we don't want to launch the proxy without having received enough feedback from the Eden members themselves as to their subjective views. I mean, that's the main premise of this proxy, that it is a people's proxy, and their voice is the most important aspect when it comes to what BPs are selected from this proxy. And part of that is sufficiently and accurately presenting the BPs to the Eden community. So first goal, as I see it, is just to start a reach out program where we go through the BPs one by one and extend a hand and try to make contact. That might prove to be impossible on many of them, but we got to try as many angles and points, any other contacts we have, try to extend a hand. Josh and I will, right, Josh, you're cool. We're going to take the lead on this one and start basically exploring the BPs and try to have some discovery sessions and get to know them and understand, have them explain to us what they're doing, and then use that to create some content and information that the members can use.
Yeah, John Heater recently mentioned some really powerful messaging in like a marketing focus group meeting that WAXA was hosting. And it was more, I can't remember everything that he said, but it was more along the lines that the attitude or the mindset we should have is just assume that the BPs want to support what's happening here with Eden on EOS, to just behave with that assumption. And two ideas that have been floating around. So there's these private discovery sessions to just basically figure out in like a collaborative conversation, where do you want things to be? Where are they right now? And then we'll just ask strategic questions to build a bridge from the current reality to the desired reality in the eyes of the BP. So we're just going to really gather as much information as we can from them in a single discovery session. And then the idea would also be to use that data to then have a public conversation, like an interview style. I don't know if you're still down with that, Chris, and to make these people look very good in the eyes of the community, in a mutually beneficial way. If we discover some dirt, I don't know what we'll do with that, but that's not really the intention, is to try to dig up dirt. These people want EOS to thrive, we're assuming. And so we want to start to fix the public perception of the BPs, because that helps our cause.
Yep, you nailed it. Exactly. We assume the best. And I don't know if we come across dirt, I don't even know what dirt would look like. How do you define it? Oftentimes dirt is just a misunderstanding, right?
Just a smudge on the graphics card.
yeah. But I think it's a perception, right? We might see a certain data point or a certain activity and assume the worst, but assuming is a bad thing. So I think the goal here is to try to understand. Maybe there's a perfectly good reason why some BPs might have sock puppets supporting them. Maybe it's part of, like, if they didn't do that, they wouldn't have a business, and we would lose a valuable contributor to the community. So I think that's, this idea of this cookie cutter, this is the way it has to be approach is a flawed human egoist approach. We need to there's nuance to everything. There's gradients in all discussions. Very few things are black and white. Even the colors, black and white. So it's all about a gradient, and the only way we get to determine and discover the nuance is through dialogue, and that is the key mission that I think I want to, and we all want to do here. We want to have dialogue, and we want to have it open and honest, and no prejudgment. Just let's learn, and let's try to help understand the differences, and then explain the differences, right? If there's some smudges on some of the records of BPs, well, there's probably a reasonable reason for it. And if we can sufficiently explain that and not highlight that, let's highlight the good, that might be enough to encourage a more positive view. And in the end, this is what's neat. Like, as long as we're transparent and open with the information we present, we're like almost like a fourth estate, if that's the right way to look at it. Like, we're just media. We're just going to present information to the members and have no bias as to who picks what BP or what are good or bad. We just present the information. The Eden members themselves are what rate the BPs based on what they know, old information, new information, and that's what's going to determine what this proxy votes for. Sound good? Sound good. So timelines on this one, I think we need about a month to sufficiently go through these BPs, and it'll be a busy month. Like, this is going to be a major focus for myself especially, and try to go through as many of the BPs I can within the month, and maybe touch base 2 weeks in, see how much progress I've made, see how fast I can kick out content that will help explore these BPs. And then we need to aggregate all of this content, which will come up later. But our comms is weak. We need a central aggregation point of information, and it does sound like we can get to this later. But the Clarion team is open to repurposing pieces of the Eden on EOS or Eden EOS website. I forget the actual URL, but if we can take a page of that and make it the Eden members proxy BP or something like that, that can at least be a point that we can add information to and make that the go-to spot, I think that would be ideal. But
yeah, if there was like a 2-month term, like you were suggesting, maybe the first month would be these, gathering as much data as we can, and also maybe scheduling out public conversations for the second month leading up to the election in September.
yeah, ideally, I mean the trick is we want to get this proxy up and sort of aggregating votes in advance of the end of this term. Technically we can still run with it after the fact. I mean, it's not really dependent on.
I mean, the proxy is sort of a simple thing on its own, but what I'm kind of looking at here with the mandate of the proxy is it's an opportunity to create like an EOS BP alliance, and for there to be a relationship. And we do need to know people's intentions, and if they are apprehensive to support Eden, it could just be some lack of information, and we can get that information and maybe close any gaps that exist. The idea is the ecosystem has to become more harmonious, and that's part of the whole mandate of Eden on EOS itself.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a very good point. Part of the discovery session, it won't just be one way. We're going to learn about the BPs, but we're also going to try to use that opportunity to explain any questions that they might have for us about what Eden is and what are our goals and objectives. And because there very easily might be some lack of clear communication there about what certain what the BPs expect of us, because a lot of people are like, give us inflation, give us RAM fees, and that's not necessarily the case. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. And even the inflation idea, it doesn't need to be 0.25%, it could be 0.01%. Right? I mean, it could be a very, very small amount, even just to dip the toe in the water. And has that been sufficiently presented to the BPs as being an option? I don't know. I mean, none of us know the answer to that question even. So this will at least illuminate part of this necessary discussion. And it will be a two-way discussion. If they're willing to listen, then we'll have an opportunity to explain our side of what we'd like to see. Okay, awesome. So this is an easy one. I'll add more notes here because it's hard to make notes while I'm talking.
Also, if anyone's watching this, if you just want to donate like around $1 billion to the Eden Treasury, we could buy close to 300 million tokens to add to the proxy.
I think that's premature.
If you just have like a spare $1 billion.
Chris, if you
I'm sure Bill Gates is going to watch this.
If you're reaching the BPs, I think you have to be accommodating and understanding if they don't know who you are, and they already spoke to Dan about this idea of donating a certain percentage, and it's a hurdle you have to go through, and maybe I don't know, maybe Dan can help you and have a mutual introduction and tell these guys, talk to this man because he represents the evolving Eden on EOS. And when Dan talked to them, it was just an idea. Now there is a beginning of an organization.
Yeah, I'll be wary. I don't want to step on Dan's toes. I mean, I am sure he has a plan and an approach for this. Okay. My main focus is just to do this exploratory. We're a community member. We're from Eden. We represent Eden in
Sure.
As far as we can as being members. We're just trying to get to know the BPs and create this proxy. If we have an opportunity to explain what Eden is, and and maybe just some suggestions, you might have heard 0.25%. Have you considered 0.1 or 0.01? But yeah, I could try to. I don't want to mix the message. I don't want to make this. I don't want to muddy the water with us trying to talk about how do we get inflation. That can come later. I think first step one is just let's establish a relationship. Let's establish a means of comms, because that's huge. We don't have that, and that would be just a huge win if we can have some sort of community representation, which is what we are trying to be, and now establish a community tie to BPs. I don't know if that's ever existed since the beginning of this chain. So, and has there ever been a concerted community
I don't think so.
aggregation that has tried to reach out on behalf of the community with the BPs? I don't think so either. So it should be. This is almost like one of those like, duh, of course we should have this. It's delegated proof of state.
remember to mention that it's unofficial. We're not an officially elected board. It's just a test run. So
we're just Eden members trying to set up a proxy
yeah.
that represents Eden members. That's as official as it needs to be, and that is official. I'm an official Eden member, and so is everyone on this board. That's official, right?
Yeah.
So,
But,
and the proxy isn't meant to be official.
They have a limited amount of attention span, and
Sure.
a lot of people are approaching them. So why would they listen to you? So you have to be careful about that, not to burn the bridges before they're built.
No, I agree, man. Yeah, it's an open hand. I expect it won't be reached out to by every counterparty. But here's the thing: if you don't reach out to my extended hand, and you're busy, you don't know who I am, no judgment for not reaching out. But don't be surprised if later the Eden members don't vote for you. So this is where it becomes an interesting dynamic. In the next month, I have zero influence.
It sounds like a threat, but
no, but it's not a threat.
You don't have to say that.
No, but it's not a threat. It's just a fact, right?
Okay.
I reach out as an unknown to another counterparty. They don't have time to talk to me. Fair enough. If it turns out later that the Eden proxy, members proxy, aggregates enough tokens to have a meaningful, whatever that means, weight in selecting BPs, it's not a threat. They'll just be inclined to then want to talk to me. I'm not going to say, you didn't talk to me. Hey, everybody in Eden, don't vote for this BP or don't give them good marks because they didn't talk to me.
Maybe they will talk to you once this proxy has enough votes.
That's what I mean. So there's nothing adversarial or confrontational about that. It's just a byproduct of where our status will be and their own self-interest. If they want our votes, and they want to convince the people of Eden that this is a good proxy or a good BP, then they will be inclined to want to talk to us. And it's not a threat, it's just a fact. And I hope that is clear. Like I don't want to threaten anybody. Talk to us or else. No. And besides, I have no sway. The Eden members themselves get to choose. So all we can do is present open, unbiased information, and they can decide what they want to do with that information in terms of how they rate BPs. Okay, right on. I don't want to beat this horse. I think it's clear. I will add more to the notes. Like I say, hard to take notes and talk. The next one on the list was supporting the bootstrapping of the EOS support initiative.
So Felix is getting support. I think we've got enough financially to start the proxy, like to actually set it up if we want to. Ami's got the funds that he needs for his project. So one of the projects that I ran on, aside from the proxy and that larger project that I mentioned that Graymass is discussing behind the scenes, was the EOS support, customer support, however, I think we're just calling it EOS support for now. And Randall is spearheading that, as well as Dario is taking a lead role in that. And a lot of community members are already starting to congregate around it. Randall and others are going to be self-funding it, but as a symbolic gesture, I'm going to donate the 110 from this election to the EOS support account. I don't think they'll be using it for anything initially. So right now it's just a symbolic gesture because it's going to be initially kind of self-funded. And I'm going to work with that focus group to get something going immediately, even this week if we can. That is a service that people can use to start validating the need for something like this and have that support available. I don't know how much details I would want to present in this meeting, but maybe in the upcoming meetings I could, we only have limited time. Maybe I could get into more details about what's being implemented. And the other thing I want to mention in terms of like fulfilling some promises from the election. So one of the things I ran on was I have my hands in many focus groups and initiatives that are going on, and I'm going to continue to support those things. And part of that is some of the people that I ended up in rooms with who either gave me a vote of confidence or were running as candidates, as competitors. I do want to have, and some of them I'm already scheduling, I want to have discovery sessions with them. I want to learn about what initiatives they're involved in, what they want from that, where things are at right now, what can be done to support it, and basically kind of prepare. Because as we go into these larger elections, if we continue to run as candidates or representatives, we can have a lot of details about many projects that need funding and be in a position to support these people who maybe don't have time or don't have interest, but they do need some support, you know, from the community in various ways. And so in different conversations, I pledged to do that. And I just wanted to reiterate that that's something I'm going to continue to do, that I want you guys to hold me accountable for, is helping in all of these different initiatives, so that when we roll into the next, maybe our first official election will be in September, you know, all of the initiatives we're discussing and the ones that aren't on the agenda today, those things are being well represented one way or another. And it might also be worth mentioning that that probably involves what can we do to help people practice and perfect their pitches and proposals right now before an election in September, and also teaching. You know, there's some campaigning that has to go into this. You can't really properly present something in a room for 50 minutes with 4 or 5 or 6 people. A lot of that legwork, people need to kind of already know what you represent before you even get in a room. And I think that's the real legwork that has to be done. And so whatever we can do to support that activity happening, we do sort of have a focus group on it already, actually, like a project proposal focus group. Maybe next week I'll come with a list of some of the different focus groups that are happening. And I think that actually dovetails into the next item on the agenda. But does anyone have any other thoughts about the EOS support before we get into the next item?
I don't. And I think it feeds, like you say, into the next item, which is probably the most important part about this call, honestly, is coming up with what are we really going to work on, like more structure oriented, you know, marketing, internal, external communications, the election process improvements itself, project compilation curation for significant funding needs, BP engagement. Those are the examples I have. So to me, I think we need to pick a couple really big kind of overarching focuses that we're going to try to focus on. And then we figure out, how do we achieve some of these? How do we narrow those in? And then from there, we create sort of a structure where individuals from the community can look at that and say, okay, I want to help with this one, and I'm going to help with this one, I'm going to help with this one. And then we kind of put some people in charge of each of these initiatives, and then we just help curate the flow of these projects and help people kind of achieve whatever the goals might be for each of these respective subtopics. So with that, what do you guys see as our key pillars, if we want to do that? Or do we want to talk about, is it worth going into quickly that holacracy and sort of a way we might establish a framework, and then that can help feed?
We could open it up for discussion among us, and I want to see the interest that maybe Felix and Ami have. Are you guys familiar with holacracy? Have you ever heard of that term?
No.
So it was mentioned at one point when early discussion was happening about Eden. Somebody I think in the EOS main forum, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe EOS Gov, they mentioned the word holacracy, which I was surprised to see. It lends itself a lot to the structure of Eden, but it's basically an approach to organizational structure. So instead of having the hierarchical approach, we try to level the playing field, and it's sort of more of the approach is kind of like having circles. This in the center there, do you see the red organizational chart? If you just scroll down, this is kind of a good example.
This one. Of
what things might look like with Eden. So instead of having the traditional top-down approach, we would sort of have this kind of looks like a solar system or something. It's maybe there's other visuals, but so I want to throw out one hypothetical example of what we could do if we're talking about core pillars. I have this idea of taking the traditional C-suite, like CEO, CMO, COO, CFO, that kind of stuff. And instead of it being an officer and one person, it could be an office. It could be like a focus group that exists. Like if we were looking at one of these diagrams, there can be a larger circle. Well, if you go back to that first example you had there, yeah, so there's like the super circle here, and then there's a subcircle, and then inside of that you have different roles and functions. And so like the larger circle could be the CMO. So just generally, this is an aspect of any organization, but it doesn't have to be one individual that's doing it. And then inside of there could be a subcircle that falls under marketing. And then inside of there, there's roles and functions that are happening. And so the idea is any Eden member could, especially if they have experience, and they could take a lead role, they could take an advisory role, let's say, for example, in marketing, and we could curate and crowdsource intelligence from the community, and then people who have the expertise or have our elected representatives or something. I don't know how we would decide what the authority is, but they would basically follow through on those initiatives. And in some cases, it may just be because, like in Felix's case, like Felix owns a channel. And so if there's some marketing initiative that correlates with that, then Felix would just take the action that was kind of agreed upon that would be like the best action to take. In the case of Eden, we do have some official marketing. Since we're talking about marketing, we do have some official marketing and communication channels. And I would say that really the Clarion team is the shadow government for that kind of stuff, and the brand and all that kind of stuff. We do need to develop if we did have a focus group that was like the CMO, for example, on Telegram, we would need to work with the Clarion team to establish some protocols for how those official things could be used. So that would be like the YouTube channel. There is a Telegram channel that's set up that's integrated with the Eden on EOS group. We're not using it yet, but it is there. If we wanted to start using that regularly, what's the protocol for using it? If we wanted to set up a chat bot to help people discover Eden on EOS and help onboard new members who have joined and they're added to, for example, the Eden members group, what would be the protocol and the rules and the guidelines for how we can do that, and making changes to it and all that kind of stuff. We need to be able to function as an organization, but this is experimental. And so why not use something that's a little more unusual and experimental, which is so holacracy is a whole framework. I don't know if we would fully use that whole framework. Maybe we just need a very simple hybrid version of it for right now. Chris, I don't know if you can pull up Telegram, but I did create 5 Telegram groups that we could hypothetically use. And the idea with these groups, if we use this idea of the C-suite structure, is you're basically just putting on a hat and wearing special glasses, and focusing on inventing or improving an existing, area of the organization. So it could be some component of operations, it could be some component of marketing, and we would want to train people to keep conversation on task and in that context. And these, if we did have these 5 pillars or circles, or some variation of them, then within them, there would be other focus groups that are like smaller, more focused. So like EOS support maybe falls under, to some degree, the CMO circle, just as like one focus group.
Okay. I love it personally. I think it's awesome. I don't know, I'd love to hear what Felix and Emmy think, but I think this is far more in line with what a fractal governance would look like, especially when you start thinking these outer circles can also have sub overlaps, because we're going to have a small group. So some people might have one of the dots, but it's actually in more than one circle. Does that work? Do they overlap like that, or are they usually disparate circles like this? Where they kind of
I think definitely things do overlap. That crazy graphic we had up for a moment ago might actually show some of that overlap. Okay. I'll share my screen real quick and show you the example, what I'm talking about visually. I don't think I can blow up the screen here on Telegram, but so basically I just have 5 groups set up. This is the CMO group. I shared something from Dan Carroll that he posted, I think, in the Eden members group, asking questions related to creating a marketing framework. We have a COO group. So I created these little icons for them. And there's I shared something from Vincent. I don't know if you guys saw that. Pretty cool
Excellent.
foundational workflow, something we should definitely discuss at some point. So I have 5 different ones set up. There's kind of like 5 points on the Eden logo. So I thought it was sort of symbolic to have something like this. And there would probably need to be a little bit of explanation of like what the focus of each one of these things would be.
Well, maybe we kind of figure out exactly what they are based on like what we decide right now is what our focus is, right? What are we gonna? So when we talked about marketing, internal, external comms, election process improvements, like what are our pillars? Like the pillars thing. I'll reshare my screen here so it's all up. And that's I think this is one of the most important pieces we can walk away from this call with is what are these large super circles or core pillars? What are our main primary objectives going to be? And whether our respective projects, well, they will fit into it. Every single one of the projects that we're each working on will find a way into this. It just, right? What do you think of me?
I'm not sure I understand, but it feels to me like something that's separate from the elections and the budget allocation out of the elections, where anyone can volunteer and step up and say, oh, I can help with this. I can donate, a small percentage of my time, and I'm just doing it.
Exactly.
Regardless if they are a first or second or board level representative or none at all, just an Eden member.
That's it.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So instead of having like one CMO looking at things with that hat and those special glasses, anybody could do that. And the idea would be to support any of the sub circles or anything happening in the marketing realm that's taking place. So the EO support initiative, I think, might overlap in that. Definitely the activity Felix is doing goes into that. I do think the emphasis of these types of focus groups should be on Eden itself right now, like solving some of the issues that we have within the Eden community and helping like get people inducted and onboarded as members and improving our election process and all that kind of stuff. But it could eventually expand beyond that.
So I think, you nailed it. That's the point. This is meant to be something where we create a bunch of holes with descriptions. We present this to the community. Who out there wants to do what? And we'll leave it out there, and we'll try to then bring in those who want to help, and then we'll help curate these groups as the board. That'll be our sort of role, even though there's going to be a lot going on that we aren't going to necessarily have our hands on. If we can at least keep everything within the rails, we can hopefully achieve quite a bit. Felix, what do you think?
Yeah, so what comes to mind for me is so during the election process, you have different sectors of like some people they're running to be elected as a representative to manage marketing, or someone is for a project. So I think by getting involved with this kind of helps. This helps your stance going into further elections, especially the official ones, because you can say, hey, I'm involved with this group that's focused on this, and so I feel like that helps like your pitch of being elected as a representative. But also, I guess what kind of comes to mind when I'm looking at these circles is like every round you get more funding, so the bigger the funding, the bigger the circle. And one of the things I was thinking about was moving into one thing I noticed is, a lot of people that come in with into these elections with kind of like a general broad idea. And some of them are good. It's hard to measure. It's hard to measure like how well that idea will be unless you have it more, if it's more broken down. But what I like about the election process of Eden is that, especially like this test trial versus the last one, is that we had funds that were broken up through each layer. So now this gives everyone a chance to have a fund to manage, and then we're able to look at them and hold them to their performance on how they manage those funds. And part of me is thinking that, like, the bigger the circle, you're the bigger circle that receives all that funding, but it's also, if you can like distribute that into the smaller circles of people who are in that same the same category as you. So I don't know, that's kind of, I know that might, I don't know how well that answered the question. That's just all that kind of comes to mind when I was looking, when we're talking about holacracy and these different groups. I just think anyone who's watching this and is wanting to, have a bigger role and potentially become a representative in further elections, I do think that getting involved with one of these, being like, this is my angle, this is like my expertise, will help, I think, your chances, because then you can fall back on like, hey, this is what I did for Eden. Because that's one of the things going into the election that I'm starting to notice is like, I mean, that's what I'm doing myself too, is like, we're building our resume of our contribution to Eden, and then that helps us with furthering of getting people's votes, because you do need to have a track record. If not, it's just, I mean, it is nice to have the smaller funding, but and that's a good way to start. You have to be fine with like, hey, if I don't have a track record, I'm going to start as this little smaller circle, but then as I get bigger, then I gain experience within whatever circle you're a part of. And then you also realize the importance of sharing and just having a bigger team of people just going at different angles, and eventually one of these might pop off. And then if it brings more funding outside of Eden, or that just helps the whole community and as a whole, I think. But
yeah, I totally agree. Before we move off this subject, I do want to, maybe we won't use these, but I do want to share one more thing just to explain those 5 different points that I brought up, like where that comes from. So the C-suite is something that's very familiar to a lot of people, but this idea of like not assigning it to a person per se, but just like a function of an organization is maybe a new idea. And that's where you would want to look into like holacracy type of frameworks. I did figure out how to integrate this. Like this stuff is kind of already built into things like the business model canvas, which some of you may be familiar with. And the business model canvas is like a really cool way to look at like what's happening with the business. Eden on EOS is a business. We should start to try to run it like a business, but not like a traditional business in many ways. And so some of the ways, so the V and the CVO, which is not a very popular title, I guess it does exist in some organizations, but the V basically stands for values. Like what is the value being provided, the product, the service, all that kind of stuff. And if we're looking at the business model canvas, this is the part of the canvas that is integrated into. If we were to look at the CMO, which is basically the front end systems, like the user, customer, client experiences and all of that kind of interface, the front end would be here, these elements of the canvas. And the COO would be the back end systems, which is what the admins are doing that the customers, users, and clients and members don't normally see, but it's stuff going on behind the scenes that allows you to provide the value that's being received. And then finally, the CFO is the bottom line, so to speak. So hopefully the front end systems are bringing us money, and then because of the back end systems, we have costs that we have to incur. And so then finally you have the CEO, which in my view is just basically the whole thing, putting on the hat and the glasses of looking at the whole entire thing. And again, I think it's valuable to have conversations and focuses and maybe like super circles in the context of holacracy. Organizations have these types of roles for a reason, but the traditional way of implementing it, I don't think is our ethos for Eden. And so that's why I'm proposing the C-suite, because it would be perceived as familiar to a traditional structure, but we would implement it and operate it and facilitate these functions and roles happening in a non-traditional way.
Sign me up. Sold. I'll take it.
Did that clarify a little bit, or was
Yeah,
it
it
further
did.
confusion?
Yeah, no, it's very good. I'm familiar with the C-suite. And Felix, I think regarding what you said, if I can paraphrase or say what I think will happen, is that people that get elected and have a budget might pay other people in their circle if they see they're contributing. So you start with volunteering and then you become a paid part member of that circle. That's what I think is going to naturally happen. So it's not like once every term, 6 months or a year, I don't know, you're going to have a big election and fierce competition on higher places like going to the board. But even if you don't get elected high enough, you can still get paid with EOS from people that you know and you have relationship with, an ongoing relationship that is improving.
That's it. Our goal, like that's the point. That's what we're doing here now, right? We're creating a framework that can be taken and run with by whomever it is that ends up in elected position. If this framework is acceptable and approved and accepted by the community, then it can persist beyond any particular term. And so it ends up becoming like the core funding idea of a charity. When you receive this core amount of funding, you can then provide certain services and products based on what your charity is doing. So in this case, the products and services that we can provide, we're about to talk about because we need to settle on this list, but marketing, user onboarding, GitHub repos, comms, content creation, all of that can then be an output of what Eden does with some sort of base core funding. And if we do have sufficient inflation, then when people are running, they just commit to providing that base core funding out of the allocation. If there's enough funds to go around, if someone's going to win $4 million, they could toss a couple $100,000 to pay, a good number of people to then put their time in and keep this thing running like a proper well-oiled machine, which is what we want, and not this ad hoc randomness, right? And it gives us a chance, like when Felix, you mentioned all the people who are like donating their time and doing something. We're not aligned currently. Like Josh is trying to create focus groups, which is excellent. Like that's now trying to align and aggregate people so we can have that common direction, 1 + 1 = 3. That will be an output of this organization that we're going to attempt to create here. So I think this is awesome. I love this circle representation. I think Felix, we're all on the same page here, which is awesome that we don't have any internal conflict per se. We'd have to then break out the old consensus building skills. But this is easy. We all agree. So let me reshare then. So let's dig into what I think is the hardest part about this discussion. And what do we want to make? What are these circles going to be? And we can title them to fit within the ones you've created, Josh. So maybe 5 circles is a good goal. Let's pick five sort of aspects. And what do we think we want our focus to be? And
yeah, if we did like those 5 circles or just wanted to like try it out for a week or so, we could maybe focus more on like what would be the sub circles
right
inside of there.
I think that'll be next, right? I think the first step is figure out the big circles, and then we come up with the sub circles. And maybe today is not the time for sub circles. Maybe we provide the big circles, present that to the community, present this approach, and have some feedback for a week. We reconvene a week from now, and we then curate that feedback to then define the sub circles, or we break into subcommittees, and the subcommittees, we sort of aggregate people within each of the larger circles, and they come to consensus on what they think the sub-circles would be. There's a few ways to do it, but first is these larger circles. And I know, like marketing, maybe internal and external communications is a sub-circle to marketing. Like this list is by no means complete. So I really do want your guys' feedback on what do we want our main.
When you say election process improvements, you're talking about the technical details, not about the more equal animals idea. Right?
No, nothing like that. No, nothing that would be within Dan's purview. More of
sending emails
yes.
more frequently as we approach
right.
the deadline, asking
right.
people to RSVP, stuff like that.
Those things, creating a Telegram. I think one thing that would be useful is as people sign up, we immediately add them to the election Telegram group. And so we keep them there. If Telegram is going to be our central place where a lot of things happen, at least we can have that group formed early and keep people kind of engaged and pin some messages.
Yeah, some people are too busy, and email is their main communication.
Yep, multiple ways. I think part of the solution is we have multiple ways to maintain that engagement. And I think that's for me, the biggest takeaway of what happened on Saturday is that 315 people signed up, but how many of those signed up a month ago and kind of lost track, and they didn't have it in their Google Calendar. So there's just, I don't think it's no fault, Dom did, all things considered, an excellent job, right? I mean, so it's not about that. It's just about how do we learn from what we did and what can we do better and how can we support Dom? And this is why this is on the list, because if we as a board can help get a couple people together to kind of formalize a better approach here. And then for the next one, it's like, here, this is what we're going to do, is how we're going to help you. Let us help you run that Google Doc. Let's help you with the emails. Let's help interface with Clarion to have the proper email. Like, is it at edenos.com or whatever the URL that the email address is going to come from, like, and not use personal ones, things like that. So that's why these, as I have them now, aren't really C-suite type of things. Like, there's no CEO circle here. So I don't think we need to necessarily follow that hierarchy or that approach, but creating 5 overarching circles, I think would be a good, it's not, maybe even 4, maybe 5's too many. Maybe you only want 3 or 4. I don't know. This is where I want to kind of brainstorm with you guys what you think. So what do you think? Is marketing seems like its own circle? Do we agree with that?
I'm fine with the whole list as it is. I don't think it needs to be exact or formal, and let the community discuss that. It can be a rough, sketch initially, just to start the conversation.
Ideally, I think we should output some. I don't want to be too loose. If we get too loose, we're going to end up with a ton of back and forth. If we can at least create a bit of a container for the community to work within, that'll help us be a little more efficient with the comms.
I think you can put internal, external communications under marketing and leave it at that. Just change that.
Yep. That can be a sub-circle.
So I guess I have entire frameworks for what I was just presenting, things that I've curated maybe since I was like about 17 years old. I'm 33 now. To make more sense of a more like a complete business framework, I guess. That's where my suggestion is coming from, of how we might focus the attention and structure things. We do need some emphasis on product development. Of course, we have the software that the Clarion team is creating, and Eden OS, I guess, is their product, so to speak, and it's an important part of Eden, but our product is really the membership. What are the features and the benefits of the membership? Even these elections kind of is part of our product. The experience of joining Eden before you actually join is part of our product. The experience when you join and you're onboarded is part of the product. And then everything that happens, your whole experience in the organization as a member, the membership itself, and if we're thinking about like video games and stuff, the different journeys that you go on playing the game, so to speak, is all part of the product. And I don't know if that stuff is well enough focused on and defined. So that may be something that needs to get on this list, is
Eden member experience
and making the membership compelling. Yeah, the member experience for sure. Yeah.
So Josh, you mentioned you have like a many year framework of sorts.
Yeah, I don't think we can get into it in this meeting, but I did want to mention that.
So it's not something that we could take those pieces of the framework and reuse them here and then fit these into that. It's not that type of thing.
Yeah, well, we probably could. Like, for example, like, what's the purpose for BP engagement? Is it more tied to like finances, or is it more tied to like our product, or the way that we operate as an organization? or I mean, some of the data that we get might go into marketing initiatives, but I think it really exists because of money.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
initially we're asking them to donate a certain percentage to fund
But
to jumpstart Eden.
right, but that's not of our mandate, like right now. Like
No,
ideally,
no, not us. But
yeah.
when Eden is official and when there's a real board, so we can just talk about it
So like
unofficially with the Eden members.
the proxy BP engagement,
It should, yeah,
what is it really for? It's for
exactly.
money.
Exactly. So we should fit this as a sub circle within a bigger circle. Yeah. So what should the big circles be, right? So that is it just finances, money,
Well,
revenue?
I've already told you guys what I think, so
Well, let's
you have
say
to
them
come to
again.
consensus.
Yeah. Say, can you list them out again for me? I'll write them down here and then see if we can slide these into those. That might be a better way to do
Okay,
it.
so
Marketing is CMO.
right, and again the O is office, not officer.
Okay.
Okay.
CMO.
CFO is money.
CVO.
COO.
COO and CEO.
And the CEO is just like looking at the whole picture.
Okay.
It's more of a strategic position for the entire organization.
Internal, external comms, part of CMO, or is that ops? That's probably.
I would say it exists because of the mark. Well, I don't know. It depends, because if you're communicating with users, that's marketing. If you're communicating with admin, that's operations.
That's
So
okay.
it could be,
It doesn't have to be exact or
like Slack is like a COO initiative. The users will never see what we're talking about in Slack per
right.
se. Well, I don't know. This is unique because this is a membership organization, actually.
Okay, so let's throw, so marketing, internal, external comms, they fit under CMO. Election process improvements.
Let's COO.
Do we agree? That's COO?
Yeah.
Yeah, the process makes sense. Project compilation curation for significant funding needs. This is like a goal that has been pointed out to us many times that we need to, if we receive 2.5 million EOS, what would we do? And none of us have a good answer.
This could be CVO maybe? Does that work?
Yeah, that is kind of our product, curating projects.
Create the vision.
You can see how there's overlap, right? So this is somewhat overlapping with looking at financials.
If we can take this out, provide a basic list to the community, think about it, and then we will figure out how to represent this in some sort of, I don't know how we represent it, like a bunch of circles, and we'll have to figure out how to create that. But BP engagement, that is, it could lead to finances, but it also is a bit of a vision thing because it's like a community building. It could be comms, but maybe it's most closely tied to finance.
Put it under CFO. It doesn't have to be, it's not an exact science. And you want to also write, the proxy initiative under CFO.
Yeah. The proxy initiative will, hopefully, if enough token holders want to donate their returns to this initiative, that will generate revenue and pay for people. That's, I think, one of the, I'd like to see if the proxy could pay for some of these groups and some of these people who are just pure volunteers and provide some sort of compensation. I think would be far more effective if we can do that, and not treat this as like a revenue stream for Eden itself, but for the people who are working on behalf of Eden. And I think we're going to get more long-term, but that's a side.
Should we just list a couple of focus groups in addition to what we have here, like Felix's group, the EOS support group?
Absolutely, we should. So Felix's group, Felix's proposal, initiative. Yep. What else was there? So Ami, your work would fit.
I think COO.
Ops thing.
Yeah, we need a name. I have a domain name I like and I haven't used. It's EOS in a box.
Hmm.
Do you like it?
I like it.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Very nice. And then what was the community, or what's the title of the other one, Josh? I got it up
Well, there's
here.
EOS support, which I think is
EOS
more of
support.
a kind of a marketing initiative. And it will support Eden as well. That's part of what that group is working on. And I think you already have it here, but there is like a project proposal, like helping people refine their pitches and proposals and stuff. I think that might be part of our product as an organization, or like our service. Like we really have to almost like incubator, accelerator type of activities, running people through exercises and processes and strengthening their pitches and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The election itself might also be part of our product.
Yes. Yeah, right.
But we're looking to operationally improve it. So
initially, and later on, it might migrate to be more focused as a product. Yeah. Or the product.
So like another thing under CMO for me, the way I would break down marketing is I would have like experience phases, and the two main phases that I think we need to improve is discovering Eden on EOS. We need to enhance that experience. And then the second one is, getting started as a member. So like the first phase ends once you're inducted, and then the second phase begins. And the second phase is like learning the tools and like getting everything you need to play the game and kind of getting plugged in based on your interests and stuff. And then the third phase is the main part of your journey as a member, which is just hitting as many win states as possible, individually and for our collective goals.
Say that again. What's the third phase?
You don't have to put the third one in there right now, but I was just kind of mentioning. Okay. So the second phase does have an ending, which is just kind of like getting you all the basics that you need as a member so that you can just like really go out there and smash it.
Okay. Yep.
So if we improve those things, that's going to help a lot. If Felix and other initiatives drive any traffic to Eden on EOS.
Right. Okay. Let's to help bootstrap any other ideas here. Let's, pardon me, look at some community feedback that I think we've basically covered. Central repository for open source project, ESIO code. And then another quote was, an awesome repo is like a list of relevant information. This is the one for EOS. The point is you find stuff in one place, or also a centralized platform for EOS tools and resources. That was from Vincent's MindWeb, which I will bring up in a moment for us to look at. So I think that's covered in this project compilation curation, significant funding needs, maybe, or isn't it? Because that's maybe, more like a repo, right? So
maybe you would put
COO?
Like maybe edeneos.org and maybe even eoscommunity.org is part of like the value that we need to accentuate.
Is that an ops thing to set up that GitHub type of repo?
No, I'm not talking about the GitHub repo. I'm talking about like people going to edeneos.org and they're not easily able to find things like the Notion or the GitHub repo, or so like a centralized source for everything Eden. Could be making some adjustments to the website. And the same thing for EOS. We do have EOS, like what we're working to do here, I think, is start to add a little bit of centralization into the decentralized environment so it can be functional.
That's right.
And so we have these two websites and related media platforms that are being underutilized.
So centralized. So I've got this under internal, external communications, under marketing, of course, or CMO. So centralized info on the Eden EOS.org website, which I think is the way we should try to do it. If they buy in, of course we need Clarion teams and Dan's.
And also eoscommunity.org.
That'll be easier potentially because that's run by Graymass, right?
I think Ray set up these websites.
Oh, both of them?
I think so. Or they look very similar. They're running on the same stack.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
I might be wrong
yeah.
about that.
So that's interesting. That's going to centralize, and that's where all these circles are kind of going to overlap, because a lot of the information that would come from the proxy initiative, that would come from the project compilation, would need to be located in some of these, in this centralized look. We would have a link there or some sort of way to a one-stop place to go to find everything you need to find. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So there's kind of, as far as the value, there's Eden on EOS, like the membership, but then there's like EOS is sort of, or Eden is kind of treating EOS like its product, sort of, right? Like the main net. Like in a sense, like, so there's sort of two layers here, and I think we need to get our own stuff together with like the membership and operating in that sense. But then the idea is that we can use that, having our stuff together, being organized, to then go out and fill all of the holes in EOS itself, like the DAO of EOS, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, we need to, bite size. What can we sufficiently expect to achieve here in a short duration? So where would the GitHub piece fit into all this? Like the central repository for if people want to open source their code. I recently heard from Francis from Pizza, the EOS project. He is looking to open source all of his code and create a bit of a DAO with the pizza token, which is excellent news. That's not well known yet. He's just kind of come to that decision very recently. So I applaud him on that. And that would be a good, this repo that has been suggested would be a good recipient of that effort. So where do we think, and Douglas Bunter, he spoke about creating this GitHub repo of sorts for people to participate on project build out. I think that belongs on here somewhere.
Yeah, it's an open source thing. Anybody can interact with it. So it could be like considered sort of like another marketing channel or social media property in a sense. Like it's something that people interact with.
Okay. So the marketing one is going to have lots of little subcircles. So that'll be where a lot of the energy, which is fine.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the EOS community forum, like we've got that big list that Dario just put together. I don't know if you've seen that, but like all of the different links out there.
Yeah, it's big.
Related to EOS.
Yeah, the few thousand Telegram channels. No. Okay, so GitHub repo, I'm just going to call it that. Is that the right way to title this? And that'll be sufficiently understood?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was that one. And then EOS needs one long-term common vision that all the community can share of what EOS is and can be, an organized vision.
That sounds like a CEO type of hat.
Right. Okay. Oops. All right, that can go there. This is like an elusive thing, though. I feel like this is almost ill-defined because I don't know if we're going to have anything in this CEO for now.
That's okay.
I mean, that's us. It's kind of us in a way. We're here to sort of keep this thing. We're building a framework, and then we're going to try to like help the framework develop itself and see it through. Right. That's kind of our mission here. So we're kind of that. And the one example you showed, Josh, we're the whole box. I kind of see that as the four of us.
Yeah, the idea of having like a focus group for CEO would be like just playing the role of a CEO, like strategic, but allowing the members to have input on what from that, like, okay, if you're in this group, put on this hat, put on these glasses, look at it from that vantage point, and share your input and your feedback.
That's excellent. You know what I'm thinking we might want to do? It's semi off topic, but the calls that Dom and I were doing, we did the open mics on Mondays and webinar / hangout on Saturday and the podcast on Thursday. I think the four of us should consider, we don't always all have to be on. I know, Ami, you're a more challenging time zone, but we should consider some sort of rotation where we set a schedule and we do a set calls, and we maybe one call we talk about some of these CEO ideas, like let's brainstorm some visions, let's brainstorm and just get an opportunity for collaboration, and let's have another call about marketing, and let's talk about where we're at with marketing, and we can just make it like an open hangout and in another opportunity to kind of build bonds and talk together. but make it like an exploratory session with the community to kind of have a chance to put, almost like a group.
And maybe
conference call.
curate some of the great ideas that happened,
exactly.
in Telegram and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, bring them up on a call and then have sort of, again, this central repository on this website, whatever website we go to. We have a sub page there that is like this kind of curation of ideas and like a chronology of discussion, which I like to keep chronologies of discussion to show how it's evolved. And it's a neat way when you can look back. I think this will be another great thing that us as a board can have. And here's what we did on day 1. Here's how it went. Here's what it looks like on day 60. Did we do a good job? It's another one of those building our resume, right?
It's also worth mentioning that sometimes organizations have a board and then they also have the C-suite and they kind of like work together. If we looked at different org charts, you might want to add to that CEO, like kind of what was connected to the mission statement that you had put out for this term, like establishing an organizational structure that is more functional for the membership organization.
The mission statement: develop an Eden on EOS organizational structure that is scalable, iterative, transparent, and collaborative with the entire EOS community.
Yeah, to me, that sounds like that CEO kind of mandate.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see it. Right? I don't know. It might be too rigid. Maybe people don't have. Maybe there's too much business framework to explain for people to have a depth of understanding of what these roles could look like if we envision them differently than how they are in traditional companies.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. We don't have to. We're going to present this video. I don't think we've had any major faux pas here, so we shouldn't have to edit much. So we could release this as is, and then in terms of written content, we could do just a high level summary. Doesn't have to have all these details quite yet, and then it'll be a race to someone watches this video versus our kind of cleaning up of the final written output.
Felix, do you have a name for your initiative besides that group that we have going, the Felix Funding Machine, which I really think is an awesome name, but I don't know if that describes your initiative. That's more like our initiative to support you with your initiative.
I don't know. I guess I've really talked about it like an EOS faucet. That's kind of like probably the best way right now.
EOS faucet. Do we need a separate like group for that, or do you already have something going that is serving that purpose?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think it was Earthman that made the Felix funding group. I was just going to use that Telegram group to keep updates. But I mean, if you guys think we should have a specific Telegram group made for that's different than that, but
it's a good point, Josh.
The Telegram group.
And maybe the one that's there is good enough.
Are you thinking we create Telegram groups for all these and put the links to them all?
If we can't escape Telegram, we probably have to use
Telegram groups.
I don't think we can escape it. I think we're just going to have to suck it up because that's where the community is. And we just create groups for each of these little sub things, and people who want to join. We'll curate it.
We already do have a lot of focus groups going on. So
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but be curious to know what the community says.
You're actually, we do. I already have this one set up. We've already got the BP proxy initiative group set up. You've got Felix's group set up. You've got this one set up.
Add the links to the Telegram groups that are already.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, we're going to put out, ideally, we put out a bit of a blog post here. We put out a post and we, here's the links if you want to join this initiative and stay up to date on how these things progress, follow these channels. And then we'll just take it upon ourselves to curate and then get some admins and, kind of try to keep it clean. More Telegram. I mean, at least you can sort into folders. I find the folder helps a lot when you can just kind of create a folder and at least you go there and look what you need.
Yeah, it'd be really messy without the folders.
Impossible. Yeah. A lot of scrolling. Okay. Did I miss anything on this? Oh, the last one was a point from Chuck, which I think is a good one. He wanted to mention, again, the strength of the Eden process itself as a conversation tool, as a precursor to its strength as an election tool. So Eden members could come together in a low stress setting where the only time commitment was 1 hour, do a round of process, turnout would increase. And then you could have someone kind of curate and summarize the output of that. So I think if we ever needed to do any more community brainstorming sessions, we could attempt, this is a neat way where you could take a group of, say, 15 people who want to brainstorm and break them into groups of 3. And so they can have a really consolidated, condensed discussion, and then have them pick somebody to carry the ideas to the next. And maybe it's a neat way to use the Eden process to brainstorm, quote unquote. I don't know if that fits into what we're doing here, but I thought it was interesting feedback.
Well, what comes to mind for me, I don't know if we already mentioned it in this meeting, but yeah, I did kind of bring it up a little bit. Like if we talk about regular events, I think we need to start to do more incubator, accelerator type of activities within the membership, like helping people prepare for the elections in every way possible, you know, whether it's presentation materials, whether it's like campaigns. A lot of people that might not really be their strong suit. They just got something that they're working on. Some people have pitch decks, but they're not getting enough exposure. You know, what can we do to help people refine what they're doing? And maybe what they have, maybe they have a great idea, but it's just very unrefined. It's very weak. Like, that's really great. You know, 10 of us care about it, but does the general market care about it? Do you have any evidence to support that anybody is going to care about this and use it? Because otherwise we're setting them up for failure to some degree. And it looks bad to Eden if we're funding things that get no market traction.
This is a good point. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting idea. That potentially could be election prep, incubator services, pitch deck support. That's all kind of one thing.
It could also be a way that we collaborate with EOS Starter too, which I'm going to talk to Hernan about.
Yep, that's right. So that would fit under, is that CVO? Like, would that fit under project compilation, curation?
I think it does, because that we're just helping people with their value propositions, basically.
Yeah, election prep. Pitch deck support. Okay. So, gentlemen, we're going on nearly 2 hours since we started. So, what do we think about this then? Is the community going to be satisfied with this framework that we are creating? We're going to have a very heavy marketing focus, and I think it's important to like break it out like we have here. We'll do some BP engagement, a proxy initiative fitting under CFO, which is like another sort of circle, which is great. CVO with the project curation, and that fits into this idea of if we receive 2.5 million EOS, what are we going to do? So maybe we work on a mock election with no prize for just Eden members. It's the best idea I've heard so far. And of course, it was my idea, so of course it's the best idea. But I think, I mean, in fairness, it's at least a reasonable approach that we can. It would be a no cost, simply time input, and maybe that would be a good one when we want to look at here. Where is it? Where we want to improve. Where's the one about making the elections better? Does that not even get on here?
COO.
Oh, right here. Yeah. So that fits nicely, right? If we do this, part of this could be to set up a mock election with Eden members only for serious proposals, and maybe that would be a good way to get even better participation from Eden members, because that is something you're going to want to have a say on, right? If we do have a mock election when we assume there's a $10 million prize at the end, I would be very keen to kind of see how that plays out and see the proposals that come up.
Why did we put Ami's initiative under COO? Because it's really like a product or a service you're developing, right?
It is.
Yeah. Where do you want to put it?
I think it would go under the CVO.
Okay.
I think any of these projects that we're incubating and accelerating themselves are, unless it is operation. I mean, I guess this would operationally help the EOS community.
If it works as I envision it, then it helps bring more members and to EOS, not just to Eden.
Right. It's an attractive mechanism. It's a product. I mean, EOS in a box.
It's a product.
It's a product.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can refine these after, Josh, before we like define.
I think in your write-up, the main thing to emphasize is like the super circle, sub-circle. Here's a way we could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are really going to take to the C-suite approach. Maybe if I presented like the whole framework behind it, they would be more partial to it.
I think it's familiar yet unfamiliar. If we make sure it's very clear, we'll define these really cleanly, right? When we give a written output of this, these are offices, not individuals, and that's fits perfectly within sort of the framework of what Eden is, because Eden isn't about the individuals necessarily. It's about, well, it is, and the trust and the relationships and what's the word? I forgot the word, reputation, halfway there. So it's about the people, but the people are going to come and go. So it's what holes do you leave behind that people can fill themselves into, even, election after election.
Yeah. Well, I knew I threw kind of a strong emphasis on how I'd like us to structure this. So I appreciate you guys trying that out and trying to experimentally see if this is something that the community might also grab onto.
Sure.
I say we try. Let's blaze a trail. As long as we can articulate it clearly and explain this well enough, this might be a great opportunity for me to do another one of my videos, YouTube video. I can try to do suit up and explain the whole approach here, and maybe give you some airtime, Josh, and help me narrate what this is, and you can do some explaining bits, and I can cut that into the video, and maybe we can make that a goal to kind of get. So we'll output this video from today that we're doing now. That's something that the community can have. We'll try to, by the end of today, we can work on just a rough written draft that the community can have, and then aim to have some sort of video content out on this by. I did that last video. It took me a day. I did the whole thing in one day. I recorded it, I edited it, I uploaded it one day. It was a long day, but so we could easily this week maybe get out a video explanation of this too, beyond just this current call, but something that's curated and deliberate. What do you think?
Yeah. It also might be worthwhile for us to review again, if you haven't already, what the previous board's kind of intentions and expectations were. I think that would be good for us to try to stay true to some of that if we can, unless we have some objections to any of their points.
Yeah. Well, Ami and I were there. I need to reread it now. What do we say?
Yeah, I think the previous board wasn't so ambitious as this one. It was the first trial election. It was just a try run of the process of the breaking up to the Zoom rooms, coming back, and that was it.
Yeah, we're taking this way further. I think I remember in chat there early on, I said, hey, what about a proxy? Maybe we could do a proxy. And I think, Ami, you're the one who said, hey, man, let's ease into it. Save that for later.
Yeah, so a lot happens in a couple months. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it was smart. I think taking it slow at the beginning, we didn't get ahead of our skis. We just lay the land, established ourselves. People got to know us. So now they know us. So I say we just jump ahead and see if we're either going to be supported in this or not. So we're going to put this video out there, and people are going to shit on it and say you guys suck, can't believe this. Or
that's okay.
Well, you're not going to keep everybody happy. I mean, if anything, if intention can speak, then hopefully even those people might at least recognize the fact that our hearts are in the right place and we're willing to put forth a ton of effort here. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to shit on this idea, then do it constructively, right? If you're going to shit, at least tell us why and how we can do better. Don't just complain for the sake of it, which often is what happens.
If people watch the whole thing, even at double speed, then that's good. That's good enough. Even if they hate that and have lots of criticism, that's good. if Felix can make a short version, if you want to make a written short version, that's going to improve and make more people aware of that. And yeah, I think that's a very good output for the first week.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Anything else we want to talk about here? It's probably late for you and me, so you're probably ready for bed.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
gonna
this
go
concludes
out
the
and,
meeting.
run a little bit and then go to bed. But
You're gonna go for a run right now?
yeah, I've been sitting too much. Sitting is the new smoking.
That's so true.
Good for
It
you
is
for
really
going for a
bad.
jog, though. That's excellent that you're motivated enough to get up and go for a run before you go to bed. You'll live a long
Yeah.
time. That's why you look so young for 50.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. I need to run more and eat less.
You know,
So,
all good. Okay, well, I think we can call this meeting adjourned. I think this is pretty successful.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Go EOS. Go Eden on EOS.
Go EOS. That's right. I think, Josh, you're recording.
Oh, yeah, let me stop the recording.